It's like mayonnaise. I'm sure that's the biggest word I know.
Hello, everybody, and welcome on into the Blitz NFL player props with none other than Derek Carty of EV Analytics. Derek, it is great to have you back for another week here, my friend. We are having a fantastic time out here. People are already noticing the fantastic thumbnail that Justin made for us this week. I was rolling on the floor laughing when he sent that.
Yeah, it's horrifying, but it's also super amazing. So
the face swap technology is incredible, and I am loving it. We did for the Sunday live show that I do. And by the way, I mean, a lot of the people who are here watching with us end up rolling over and hanging out there, and we're basically just sweating out the bets that we all made on the Friday show. But yeah, he used a Baker Mayfield one last week with my face on it, and I honestly need to get that framed. It was hilarious. But hey, we are back for another fantastic week here. It is going to be another good one, my friend. But checking in on how we did last week here, we're pretty good, man. We'll take 2 for 3. Antonio Gibson did not go over, which really sucked because we were watching that game and he just was not getting any of the run. But David Montgomery under 14.5 carries was easy, and Chuba Hubbard well cleared his carries as well. So we've moved back into the positive here on the record. We are 16-14 for plus 1.7 units, which is pretty good seeing as we got killed last week in non-show props, or at least I did.
Yeah, I did too. It wasn't a great week. We've talked about it before. I mean, the start to this year has been slow, to say the least. Yeah, I'm about break even, I think, personally. It's just a weird start to the year. We had the weird stuff early with the high safeties and everything the first couple weeks. And I feel like I've had so many props that just like the game script or just something weird happens where it just doesn't get there. Like last night should have been a close game. And it wasn't. I had Alvin Kamara over rushing props, but like when you lose by 30 points, like you're not going to get to run the ball that much. Like even though the spread was like 3 points. So it's, it is what it is. And I feel like we've had a very, very unfair proportion of those kind of things this year, which I'm ready for that to turn around. Week 7 is going to be a good one. So, I'm ready to get rolling.
Yeah. And we're off to a great start already for it because yes, we lost on the Alvin Kamara unders last night, but there were
a lot of good stuff too. Yeah.
Yeah. The Alvin Kamara overs, I should say, but first off, absolute miracle because all the passes went to Alvin Kamara and he still went. He had like 11 yards on 20 on 20 receptions. It was nuts, but I had his under passing yards. Got there. I had a fantastic night last night, and I'm fully crediting that to the Blitz because that was the projections that I was using. Almost went perfect. The Kamara rushing attempts under killed me, and Audric Esteem on his one carry goes for 17 yards, and I had him at 16.5, and I had the under there. If it wasn't for that, it was going to be a perfect night. Bub Means hit. We were cheering the Foster Moreau.
Yeah.
We cashed that one nice and early. I had that was one of the best betting nights I've had in a while. So we've started the week off really well here, and we're going to get right back to it. I'm feeling good about this week. Going to be where we get right on the show here. Green Kid saying, here we go, another 6 leg to hit. Hey, I hope you're using the Unabated DFS pick'em tools to get in on the prize pick stuff there. Michael, the NBA prop stuff, that is going to be coming out on Monday. Sports video saying Derek May and Thomas Lawrence here. I love it. Bogler, my Drake May horses came in last week, and Douglas Drake May horses did come in last week, man. And you knew that Denver was going to smash them. I mean, it was really rough for the Saints out there, but the Bo Nix Broncos have won 4 of their last 5, and that is absolutely absurd to be thinking about. I'm still so pissed at that Jets loss, but what else is new in this world? The McLaughlin under rushing was rough too. He had -3 at halftime. Yeah, that was something. But Blitz nailed Foster Moreau, as we talked about. And Tom, show me your magic because I did not have a good night. I just used the stuff. But no, Tom saying Hainer nuked me. No, Tiam, I'm gonna need to know more on this because how on earth?
I think Rattler missed his yardage prop by like 10 because he came out in the last drive because he got hurt, and then Hainer came in and took it. If you bet his completions, though, it was no sweat. He got there super easily.
Now, a couple housekeeping things before we get into everything here. First off, we are going to be doing an NBA AMA on the Unabated Discord here. Unabated.com/Discord is going to get you in there. You do not need to be an Unabated member. There's also a link. It's the same link in the description of this video too. But Justin Fan, John Rodaba, and Stephen Byron Keach are going to be talking about the 2024 NBA season for you on Monday. And we have our giveaway winner from last week here. Let me pull it up. Who is it that we had? Andrew Katz, 7353. Andrew, if you are in the chat here with us today, sound off and shoot either me or Unabated Sports on Twitter a DM, and we are going to get you your Props Plus subscription all set up. Congratulations on your free month there. You're going to be able to use that just like we do on the show here. Use those prop simulator tools to find you some great bets this week. And yeah, Al Mello in the chat saying Hainer got over for me with the garbage time TD. Nice. 2 Nicholson, I got hurt by that too. SGP promo and Rattler over was the last leg. Woof. Yeah. No, Tom, I played the single stack contest. Hainer pumped the yardage to Wilson and tipped in. Oh, that was also brutal. And look, held him in DFS. That really does suck. I think they'll remove the under props for those 10-day contract guys on NBA. Yes, that is going to be something on the NBA that's going to be going on here because, hey, you know the sports books, Derek. They're so thrilled, so reluctant to remove unders from things you can bet on, right? They were jumping at that. And Bad X got 4 for 4, so all part of variance there. Yeah, if you were playing Bad X pitcher strikeouts last night.
Yeah, it's been a good run for anyone who's using the Bad X in the playoffs. It's been good.
Yeah, things are going really well over there. Michael's already saying can't wait for MLB opening day 2025. And no, T, I'm saying absolutely disgusting finish. DPI kept them alive. Yeah. But hey, it was a fun game and we are here and we are ready for the slate this week. We've got 4 plays that we want to talk about here on the show. And of course, you guys know the drill. We are going to be adding in anything that, any questions you have, we'll go over as well. So start sending them in. I'll be going back through the chat, but we'll go through Derek's highlighted ones that we want to talk about first. And then we'll come back and talking to everyone else, getting their plays in there and answering your questions too. But for now, how about we get to it, Derek? And I do want to remind everyone, last thing, I promise you, if we can get to 4, we are at 1,200 subscribers right now on the show, on the channel. If we get to 1,400, Chris K has promised I will do the rest of the show topless. So we are going for that. 1,400 is the magic number that we need to get to. Let's get there. Justin, throw it in the ticker too to remind everybody that that's what we're going for here. But for now, Derek, let's get rolling here on the show.
Yep. First one that we are looking at this week is Jonnu Smith over 2.5 receptions. Plus 155 at Bet365 is going to be our best number here. You can see the Blitz is projecting 2.8. So this is going to be one that's, probably a little bit better than a coin flip. And we're getting it at plus 155. Even if you get it, though, MGM's 145, DK's 120. You're still seeing a good amount of value here, plus 140 at ESPN. Jonnu Smith, I feel like is just an underrated guy in general. Like he's talented. He plays for a team that previously hadn't really thrown to tight ends very much, but they kind of said all off season, like, we plan to use Jonnu Smith. We really like him, and they have. The week before the bye, he had a 24% target share. And just this game environment in general, we'll talk more about it later, but I like this game environment. They're indoors, kind of a faster paced game. This one looks good to me.
Apparently Coach Speak, I'm saying Coach Speak had something on Jonnu here, and it's also apparently been pulled in a couple places, which is very
as soon as we release it, they pulled it.
They knew. I'm checking BetMGM for us right now, so I'll report back on that in just a second here. But I mean, Jonnu Smith, he's one of those guys. I always love him because back in the day, I did a show with Matt Friedman over at Fantasy Life now, but we were at FTN at the time. And as he called him, he always loves a sexy tight end, and Jonnu Smith was that sexy tight end, and that is what he will forever be for me. But let's see here: is this number still available at BetMGM? We're going to find out, and I'm going to try and bet it real quick.
MGM has their auto mover where if it gets hit a certain number of times, they just pull it down automatically. That's probably gone there now. If people,
everything is gone. So We will have to see if we can get it back up at some point. I'm sure someone in the chat will be keeping that there. And Sports Video says, let me guess, Carty likes Tyler Huntley overs.
Well, I mean, I don't want to give anything away. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know.
Hey, it hit last week.
All right. Let's go to our next one. We're gonna do.
Wow. This number's really coming off the board. Something must have happened that not related to us here, because even Betno, I truthfully have never heard it said. They're usually the slowest to move there off the board. DraftKings has it at plus 120.
Okay. Weird that it's gotten pulled off at so many places so quickly like that. I don't know. But even at the 120 at DraftKings, I still, it still looks pretty good. Here we're looking at Kareem Hunt under 2.5 receptions, minus 115 at 365. Looks like our best line, but again, you can shop around. You're still getting, pretty good value no matter where you're getting this, where the market's at right now. 3 receptions for a running back is it's a lot. And Kareem Hunt has kind of established himself as the lead here since Pacheco went down. But they have potentially 4 running backs that are going to be active this week. And so 3 receptions for any one of them is just a lot to ask for. You can see the Blitz is projecting a little under 2 here. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, his injury designation got removed as of like an hour ago, I think, or a half hour ago. They have Pirine, they have Carson Steele. Possible one of these guys isn't active, but especially if all 4 are active, this is going to be kind of a tough number for him to get to. It's going to be a slower pace game, especially it's a pace down spot for KC because San Francisco likes to chew clock. So I like this one.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm even a little bit scared about my personal favorite play of every week, which is Samaje Perine overs. I'm scared of those this week for the first time because they have so many running backs active and don't really use any of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. But where are we headed to next here, Derek?
We are looking at Tony Pollard under 3.5 receptions, minus 103 at Bet Rivers is our best line. You can see other books, minus 115, minus 120. Some value, not quite as much. This minus 140 at ESPN, I would definitely be out on. This one's kind of scary because Pollard's been really good this year, and Tajay Spears is out, so he's going to get most of the work in the Tennessee backfield. But 4 receptions for a running back is a lot, even for a bell cow running back. And this game environment is not good. This projects as the slowest pace game on the slate. Both of these teams play slow, not a lot of play volume expected here. And Tennessee has kind of shifted their play calling approach earlier in the year. They wanted to be pass heavy. They brought the system over from Cincinnati. And Will Levis has just been so bad. And they talked about how they wanted to reevaluate, their pass run splits, especially during their bye week. They came out of it and they were much more run heavy than they've been pretty much at any point all year. So if this is a team that's going to try to run the ball as much as they can, they're going to fall behind at some point and have to throw. But if the play volume in general is low and they're going to be trying to run more than they pass, I think this number is off if the books are kind of basing it on like what the Titans offense has looked like over the first 5 weeks, 6 weeks. Yeah.
And plus, out of all that, it's not like Tony Pollard is really a pass catching back to begin with.
Yeah. I mean, he's a decent pass catching back, but he's not like, Bijan Robinson or Alvin Kamara or someone like that. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I have Bijan's underpass receptions this week. So
they do show some value. He has not been targeted much in the pass game lately.
I mean, I personally love the fact that they still use Tyler Algier a ton because it really does help betting these Bijan unders.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You may be able to kill Arthur Smith, but you can't kill his ideas. All right. We are motoring through as far as the plays that we want to particularly highlight. We've got one more here from you, Derek. And then, guys, unless we're going to do the shortest show that we've ever done here, start sending them into the chat. Let us know what you want to talk about because we're going to be going there right after we go to, you guessed it, Tyler Huntley overs.
Yeah, you guys, you knew it was coming. The Blitz is super into Tyler Huntley. It has been every start he's made for the Dolphins. Didn't look very good in his first start, but he also had only been with the team for like a week. Looked good in his second start. We went over our number pretty easily, if I recall. Showed more chemistry with Tyreek and with Waddle. Now he has an extra week with the team. They're coming off a bye. They should be really well prepared. They're going indoors into a dome in Indianapolis, fast-paced game. You can see the Blitz is projecting like 21.5 here. So we're getting quite a bit of good value here. I think there is a -110 at a couple of books. I'm just going to try to see if I can find it. If not, obviously the -115 is going to be just fine. But yeah, very correlated to the Johnny one. I like the passing attack in this game.
Yeah, I mean, the Colts defense, God bless Zaire Franklin. GOAT. Love him at middle linebacker. Everyone else on that team can't stop a nosebleed.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, we do have ESPN and Hard Rock. I think both have this -110 line. So that's what we'll use for our tracking. That's the best line. But if we pop back over to the simulator, you can see -115, -117. It's all pretty much, the same everywhere, more or less. So, and they're all good.
Hit the like button for Tyler Huntley overs. You guys know it. Now, Milo Kaminsky saying sounds like we should be laddering Huntley because 20 plus is at 175. Shall we take a peek at the prop simulator?
Let's take a look at that. Yeah, I definitely don't mind that. Yeah, this is one thing that just like the books don't seem to do a great job with is just these backup quarterback things, especially the completions. Like Rattler last night played terribly and his completions went over super easily. Even if it's a bad quarterback, they can still draw up short stuff for them or dump offs, or like there's lots of ways that they can get there. And historically, we've done very well on them. All right, so this is our number on Huntley. If we look at completions, was it over 20.5?
Yeah.
So the projection says fair value is -119. And what was he getting? 175 or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. So yeah, we are liking Tyler Huntley overs.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, might be a good idea to ladder some of those. And let's get into some questions here. We'll start off with Andrew Luders because he's not asking a prop question here. But who do you guys think is going to win the Vikings-Lion matchup this week? I'm going to say it's going to be people who bet overs and have players from those teams in their fantasy teams because I'm really hoping that this looks like Rams Chiefs from a couple years ago, like the greatest game ever played. Like this could be a really fun matchup.
Yeah, it really could. For fantasy purposes, I'm all over this one this week. For betting purposes, it looks like Lions are +1.5, and the Blitz thinks they should be closer to -1.5. So a little bit of value if you're betting it that way. But I mean, this game just in general should be a fun one.
Yeah. I personally, I'm a little biased. I'm heavy on the Vikings this season, and I like them a lot. So I'm personally on the Vikings. But
I mean, you're a Sam Darnold homer, so that's understandable. Which I am too. I love Sam Darnold. But
yeah, I will say, like, I met him at Encore Beach Club, like right after he got drafted, and incredible dude, absolutely so nice. Because I saw him and I was just like, oh, holy crap. Like, it's Sam Darnold. And I'm a big Jets fan. I was like, dude, excited to have you on the team. Of course, it didn't work out. But he was one of those guys who was like, oh, man, thank you so much. Hey, do you want to get a picture? Because, you don't ask people. Like, you don't ask any of that. But he was, like, absolutely awesome dude there. All right. Let's get into some of our questions here from the chat. Because Tyler Van Duzer wants to know about Daniels under passing yards. It's one of my least favorite things to bet. But, hey, we could be seeing some value. Shout out to Jaden Daniels, though. He's my rookie of the year right now. I don't know about you, Derek.
Oh, absolutely. He's been fantastic. Yeah, so it does look like we're showing a bit of value here. I talked about it last week, though, with Daniels. Like, rookie quarterbacks are generally really bad. Like their first season, they're really bad. They're one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. Jaden Daniels right now is looking like the exception to that rule, where he's just been fantastic. But it's still only been 6 weeks of data. It's tough after 6 weeks to change our expected talent level for him from terrible to one of the best in football. So the Blitz is kind of somewhere in between right now. If you really think this is sustainable, then don't bet this. I'm not going to bet this. I mean, I think it's very plausible that the Blitz is too low on Daniels's talent level. The other thing about this one too, though, is that they are pretty big favorites here, more than a touchdown. So there's a decent chance they're going to be running the ball more in this game. And he just doesn't get there just because he doesn't throw the ball enough to do it. But like I said, with the quarterback passing stuff, I generally like to see a bigger number than this. So this one is not one that I would bet personally for this week. And part of that's just a little bias of I really don't want to bet against Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, neither do I. So this is one that I'm probably going to be taking a pass on too. But under normal circumstances, I would say that I like it because of the fact that they're playing Carolina and they probably won't be passing the ball much in the second half. But this team doesn't really have running backs right now. Is Brian Robinson back yet?
He was, I think, a game time decision. They said it looks like he's going to play. Last I saw.
I mean, we'll see. Maybe it's going to be a little more leaning on Austin Eckler here. Maybe that's something that you want to look into. But yeah, this is a team that I feel like is still really comfortable, even in big leads, passing the ball because you want to get Jaden Daniels more reps anyway.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll see. I understand why the projection is doing this. And it's the kind of thing that, I mean, we've talked about it before where like when you have a star player, the books are rarely going to offer you value on their overs because people want to bet their overs. People are going to bet their overs no matter what. So why would the book want to give you value doing so? So you wind up with value on their unders. Jaden Daniels right now very much fits that rule too.
Yeah. Green Kid 1988 says Bijan Robinson under 64.5 yards rushing. Seattle might win. Do you think Atlanta goes pass heavy?
I mean, it's another game that projects to be fast paced, back and forth, potential shootout kind of thing. You can see the Blitz is projecting 2 yards under, which when you consider distributions is not terrible, but that's I wouldn't bet at that number.
Yeah, it's a little difficult here. What would you be looking for in terms of the percentages here?
I mean, I'd be wanting at least over 20, probably over 25.
Gotcha.
Rushing yards is one category. I think we've talked about it before.
Yeah.
I don't do a lot of, first because they tend not to show super great edges a lot of times, and also just because yards per carry is so noisy for a running back, and running back defense is super noisy. And it's also super dependent on game script. If the team winds up falling behind, you're not getting your over a lot of times. That was Kamara last night.
Yeah.
So I do definitely, I want to see a pretty healthy ROI, expected edge, or whatever you want to call it, on these.
Yeah. And it's also a case of, watching out for carry, like rather than going rushing yards, which, like you said, very noisy. Take a look at the carries market, because one thing that I like is, well, if the game script is bad, if they're getting blown out early, you're like, well, we're screwed. But otherwise, you kind of know, okay, he's probably, like we said, we've talked about it on the show. It's a more consistent stat. It's something that's a little less noisy. And yeah, you're going to lose games where you get the game script wrong, but you're going to win more often than the ones where you get it right. And it's much more stable.
Yep, completely.
All right, let's take a look at Joe Mixon rushing attempts. Speaking of rushing numbers that we've got here, let's take a look at Joe Mixon, who absolutely tore it up last week on my bench because he was hurt and I had just too many people to play.
I did the same. I did not start him last week when I should have.
Sean Tucker was on my taxi squad for 34 points, so I'm finally putting him in the game.
Looks like not a lot of value on Mixon here. This game is projecting, I think, is the fastest paced game of the week, so we should see a lot of plays run. But the Blitz is projecting pretty close to, our number here. Mixon's going to get the bulk of the workload. I love Mixon in general. Doesn't look like a lot of edge on this prop, though.
Now, how about Tate asks, how much do we like Henry under rushing yards and Terry McLaurin under receiving yards? So he's got a 2 for there. Let's go to Derrick Henry first since we're already in the rushing neighborhood.
I don't want to. The Blitz likes Henry under rushing every week.
And it's so awful. I bet it every week and I lose money every week.
I don't even bet it. I'm like, I can't. He's one of those guys that just feels like an anomaly, and this Baltimore system just seems like so great. I feel like Baltimore is overperforming right now, like in terms of their efficiency and stuff, but I'm not really looking to bet Derrick Henry under props, especially in a game where what is the spread here? It's I mean, anytime Baltimore's a favorite, it looks more like a Henry game where they're just going to lean on him at the end of the game and just run him a whole bunch of times. And there's been a bunch of times where it looks like Henry's not going to get there, and then just in the last few minutes of the game, he just like goes nuts because they just do nothing but run the ball when they're winning and it's late.
Yeah. And they're certainly not running it with Lamar when they're winning late. They're just giving it to Henry to feed him, and he's breaking down defenses that are already tired and have no interest in tackling him further. How about Terry McLaurin under receiving yards?
I mean, this is going to be the same thing we talked about with Jaden Daniels. It's going to be correlated because of the game script, because of what the system thinks about Daniels. You see some undervalue here. Not enough for me to take that.
Mm-hmm. Next up, Andy Dalton completions under. Jeff Caravan wants to know.
Let's take a look. A little bit of value. Again, not quite at the threshold that I would want. They're most likely going to be playing from behind against Washington. It's kind of the flip side of that coin where we said, Washington might not have to pass the ball. Carolina probably will at some point. They're more than touchdown underdogs here. So, looks fairish to me.
How about Kenneth Walker? Taylor Holt is curious about his rushing yards, and Derek M is curious about his receiving yards. So we've got both on Walker there. I know that I already have a play on, I want to say his receptions.
So his rushing yards, again, another one where not a lot of value here. Pretty similar, projection compared to the line. His receiving yards, though, he has been super involved in the pass game this year.
Yeah.
Little bit of value, getting closer to where I would be willing to take it. I think one of the big question marks this week for me is, what is this Seattle offense going to look like?
Mm-hmm.
In the preseason, they talked about wanting to run the ball, and then they ran the ball a lot week 1 with Walker. And then he got hurt, and then they went super pass heavy for several weeks. And then last week they said, okay, they said it like 4 or 5 times, like, we need to run the ball more. They came out with stupid hats about needing to establish the run. And then they kind of didn't do it, but also the game kind of got out of hand. It might've been a game script thing. So like, I don't know if this offense is going to become more run heavy. Are they going to just still, this is certainly a game where you'd expect them. It should be back and forth. They should kind of have to pass a little bit. I don't know. And I think given that uncertainty, the edge isn't big enough for me to try to take it. But Walker is a legitimate part of this passing game. And I do think that's real.
So scroll over to his receptions market. Oh, wow. Okay, so we're still seeing a little value, but this number moved. Like, I'm sorry, guys. I got this at plus 105 earlier in the week.
Did you really? Oh, yeah. I would have liked that. So,
yeah.
Even at minus 110, you're showing a little bit of value here. If you got that at 105, you're probably, I would like that.
Yeah. So I'm feeling pretty good about that, but hopefully it hits. But sorry, I couldn't give you guys something more than a stale line there. I know that it doesn't help anybody here. Nitish Nima saying Flattery under 16.5 outs. Last game he played great and stayed 7 innings, but not about tonight. We're talking about football here, Nitish. Arthur Dominguez says, without giving away the secret formula, Derek, could you talk about how you got Chubb's numbers? star running back coming back from major injury, coach wanting to be more run heavy, but not being 100% first game back. I mean, this is such an interesting scenario just because of the fact that you have Cleveland and they are terrible and they traded away Amari Cooper, but also you have a really great running back who's just coming back here.
Yeah, so I had to make quite a few kind of assumptions for Cleveland's offense this week. Like he said, they have talked about going more run heavy, which makes sense considering that historically this coaching staff, I mean, they used to be one of the most run heavy teams in football, you know, when it was Nick Chubb. And then this year they go super pass heavy with Watson and Chubb not there. But then Watson is terrible. They trade away Amari Cooper. Nick Chubb is coming back. They talk about wanting to run the ball more. So I am projecting them to be pretty run heavy at this point. I did some kind of, I don't know, quasi-scientific calculations using kind of their older run type data and you know, kind of what they've done this year and mix it up. And I have them projected as a pretty run heavy team at this point. Then we have to make an assumption though about Chubb and how much he's actually going to play. I don't have him projected for near a full workload in this game. Someone mentioned Coach Speak Index in the chat before, so I'm going to mention them again now. There's been a few quotes on there about Nick Chubb, and they basically make it seem like they want to be careful with him this week. Doesn't sound like a full workload kind of situation. So that's kind of where the Chubb projection is coming from in terms of how the offense is going to function and then his role in it.
Yeah, I'm personally on team stay away this week. Let's see what happens. Like the uncertainty can be good for us, but it's also really like there's a good bit of a coin flip going on in here. And I personally just don't necessarily want to be on the opposite side of it, especially when, like you said, we have no real conviction here anyway.
Yeah, and the projection's not showing any value. So
let's see here. Up next, Tyler Jackson wants to know about Jahmyr Gibbs carries.
we can take a look at those.
Ooh, Andrew Brennan with a good shout here. BetMGM is allowing you to parlay correlated props again. Tyler Huntley over completions plus attempts is plus 145.
Oh, nice. I like that. Gibbs, another one. The Blitz is projecting, 3/4 of a rush attempt over. You have to pay a little bit for it. Not much value.
Nitish wants to know, he's brought it back to football here with he's looking at Tony Pollard and Devon Achane. We already talked about Derrick Henry, so Achane running attempts, and we already talked about Pollard rushing attempts, right?
We did Pollard reception, so we can.
Gotcha. We're liking that.
I mean, it's scary because this is another one of those offenses where we think they're going to become a lot more run heavy potentially. And I am projecting them a little bit that way, but not like all the way that they could be. So there's more variance in this situation. Pollard with Spears out now, the backfield's basically his.
Yeah.
But they're big underdogs here to Buffalo. So how much are they actually going to be able, are they going to be able to run the ball 18 times with Tony Pollard playing from behind in a slow pace game against Buffalo? I don't know. I mean, the under definitely seems like I can see why the under shows value.
FanDuel at minus 132, but they're also 2 carries above anyone else in the market,
which is
scary.
Yeah, a little bit. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. That's puzzling. I'm puzzled, Derek. Puzzled by that. That makes me want to stay away from it even more. But I also want to bet it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to take another look at this one.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things where just they've just given the ball to Pollard this year and he's just kind of eaten. But this is really not the best spot for it. If I was more certain about what this offense was right now, I'd be more confident in betting it, but I'm still pretty tempted at this number.
Yeah, it's I'm probably going to end up on it and he's going to go for 18. Watch. But in the meantime here, what about Devon Achane?
Yeah, I think he was showing a little bit of value on his under. We bet him last week, I think, or no, 2 weeks ago because they were on bye last week. Yeah, they're giving him, I think, pretty much similar number to then. I kind of like this. This was one I was considering for the show. Obviously, I like the Miami passing attack here.
Yeah.
Not that they're necessarily going to be super pass heavy, but they are going to be indoors, which tends to promote passing more. They may be playing from behind, which can promote passing more. And Raheem Mostert is healthy now. So we really don't know how the carries are going to be divvied up here. I'm projecting A-Chain with more than Mostert, and it's still kind of projecting him with good undervalue here. So I am tempted by this one. I think this one's pretty good.
I am pretty tempted too, and I like that scoreline. By the way, saying I trust FanDuel more than the market from over on Twitter. Come join us on YouTube scoreline. But thank you so much, because that's a good point. Because I also trust FanDuel. Like that's a big red flag for me that FanDuel's 2 carries higher than everybody else on Tony Pollard back there. But let's move on here. David Gee has an interesting one here. I like this. I like this a lot. D-Gen kicker special, Jake Elliott over 1.5 field goals, because Philly, New York Giants is going to be a grinder. That game's going to be wild, and not in a great way.
No, I can't tell you I've ever bet a kicker prop before. I can tell you.
I'm surprised I've never bet one before.
I mean, I can't imagine. Well, maybe there's edge on them. I don't know. Jake Elliott, the Blitz is projecting Jake Elliott for 1.66 field goals. So if it's a 1.5, if you're getting it at plus money, maybe. Otherwise, I think you're probably, well, I mean, again, based on the projection, but field goals are there's so much randomness to them.
Who's at home this week? Is it Philly or is it Giants?
It's a good question. I want to say Philly, but I'm not positive.
Be careful of that, because if it's Giants, MetLife, I think the weather's pretty nice in New Jersey right now, but if that changes by game time, I mean, we saw on Monday with the Jets how that was going to be bad. Bro, KGB saying the Giants are home in this one.
The Giants are
make sure you check the weather there. Milo Kaminsky saying he loves kicker props, and the punter props in the Super Bowl are super fun. I once played in an all kicker punter fantasy football league with my friends that we started, and it was awesome. It was the greatest league we've ever done. Riley Dixon went first overall, and he was a league winner. All right. Let's see here. Going back up a little bit. Let's see. We had the kicker special. Drake 808 saying Caesars offers total team passing yards. Is there any value in the Minnesota passing game since Hutchinson is out for Sam Darnold's passing yards? His prop is 260.5, but the team total passing is 243. That's weird.
It seems weird, but for whatever reason, I don't know who made this decision. I think it's dumb, but
sacks.
Yep. For player passing, sacks don't count. For team passing, sack yardage does count.
And then in college, it counts as rushing yards, because everything makes sense.
Yeah. So I can actually look up Darnold's sack projection. He projects for 2.64 sacks. I'd need to find where I have the actual yardage on it. Sorry, I don't have a great answer for you right now, but that is why there's a discrepancy there.
Got it. All right. So maybe that's what that one's not necessarily showing a ton of value there. I mean, even if you just completely eyeball it and say 5 yards per sack, that's dropping you down 15 yards, and that's putting you right in that neighborhood right there. Right. And again, that is completely eyeballing things here.
Yeah.
And a reminder, guys, be sure to hit that subscription button here. We are at 1,213, trying to get to 1,400. It's a lofty goal for today, but if we can at least get to 1,250, I'm pretty satisfied with that. I can go home satisfied. Graham O'Brien saying, how important do you think CLV is for NFL props? Is a line is still available, showing tremendous value right before kickoff? Would you still have conviction to bet it? I personally say CLV isn't that important in the prop markets. It's certainly nowhere near as important as it is on main markets, because the prop market moves so much quicker.
Yeah, the prop market is really not very efficient. It has become more efficient this year than I've ever seen it in years past. But I still don't think it's like efficient. So if you get CLV, it's nice. But I don't think CLV is a prerequisite for, being profitable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at least in the props markets here.
In
and
the
line,
yeah.
And I'd still bet some lines before tip off. I'm still okay with that, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially we've talked about it a bunch of times before, but especially for like guys further down the depth chart, like they don't even open props for some of those guys until closer to game time. So those in particular, I have no problem betting.
Yeah. Mets asks, is Goff going to remember that Laporta is still on the roster this week? Boy, I hope so.
They just have so many mouths to feed there. Like,
I bet check Laporta's over receptions market. I bet this earlier in the week.
Let's take a look. I mean, it's looking like we're going to have value, but
yeah, taking a second here. We might need to refresh, but it should work. I got him at minus 132, and we're up to minus 140 there, but I got him at the 3.5, and the line's moved up to 4.5.
Okay, yeah. I mean, the 4.5 to plus 120 even is maybe refresh and see if we can get an actual simulation run. But I mean, I would think you're. Oh, you said they're.
Yeah, just hit refresh. It should work for you. They're pushing out an update right now, so it's just causing something to happen sometimes. Go to the yeah. There you go. There we go.
Porta, we need. Ooh.
Oh, hey.
The Viola
the update just rolled out. There you go. You can see the new look prop screen here.
I like it.
Yeah.
I need to give you guys a logo for the Blitz to use here.
Yeah, I know now that we have that. Yeah, we'll be sure to get that from you this week, I'm sure.
Yeah. All right. So what number did you say you got him at? Minus 120?
With 32.
Minus 130. Okay. So yeah, definitely some value here. Even on the 4.5 at plus money a little bit, not as much as I expected, but that's why we run the simulations. Detroit's one of those teams though, where like they kind of can do what they want. They can play the matchups. They're going to throw to Amon-Ra when Jameson Williams gets single coverage. They're going to attack with him. Laporta's going to get there at some point. Hasn't really been super targeted so far. But he's Sam Laporta. The game environment is great. And so if there's a little bit of value here, especially if you got it earlier in the week at a better number, it looks pretty solid.
Steven Johnson asks, and wow, I just looked at the chat. We have a lot of questions. We're gonna be getting through a lot of stuff here. But Steven Johnson asks, just curious if you guys can elaborate some on why expected value shown in EV analytics can be quite different from the unabated simulator. I think both are using medians, right? Yes, they are, but it's still different. Simulators are different and do different things and have different quirks in their math that can just change things up.
Right. So you'll generally see they'll be pretty correlated for the most part.
Yeah.
EV analytics isn't giving the exact percentage numbers like the unabated simulator does. The number that they give is based on projections and implied projections. So it's not apples to apples with this number. It's really just kind of different methods, arriving at mostly similar answers is kind of really all it is.
Yeah. Let's see. Tyler Van Duzer asking, how about Kyron over rushing attempts? Kyron Williams, I mean, this is one that I've been curious about this week too.
Yeah, we're not going to be telling you to bet the over. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Blitz actually likes the under a little bit here.
This is one that I was looking at early, and I'm like, ooh, do I want to bet it or not?
A big part of this is just that 20 rush attempts is a lot for any running back. And you have to kind of run perfectly to get there. If you get hurt at any point in the game, the under hits basically. Even if you're only out for, a drive, it's going to make it that much harder to actually get over this number that you really just need to be like full bore to get to. So that's really all this comes down to. They actually finally used Blake Corum for the first time last game. So I think I'm projecting just a little bit of extra volume to come off of Kyron's plate. Not a lot. Like I still haven't projected for a ton, but there are, I think, more ways for the under to hit here than the over, especially if Cooper Kupp is back this week.
Yeah.
Maybe go a little more pass heavy. Maybe, there's this game is fairly slow paced to begin with, I think. It's 20 carries is a lot for anybody as a mean or even a median expectation.
Yeah, it's so tough to get to. And then, like, they got it. Aiden O'Connell's throwing the football for the Raiders. All of a sudden, you have like a pick six, you have a turnover and a short field that affects one of your drives. Like, there are a lot of ways that this goes wrong if you're betting the over on Kyron Williams here.
Yeah. As much as people want to be, I mean, it's what we talked about before with star players. Like, as much as people want to say Kyron Williams is a beast, they're going to just feed him the ball because that's what they do. Of course, I want to bet his over. The number does matter. And 19.5 is a big number.
Yeah. Now let's see. Jim Robinson saying Will Levis over rushing yards looks good. Cleared that number in 4 or 5 starts.
The simulator does not do QB rushing yards, but we can pop over to EV Analytics and see what it says. Will Levis rushing yards. So some value. It looks like Hard Rock's got this weird, like, super plus money line for an extra 4 or 5 yards, which is interesting. Most books are 8.5. There's some 9 and 10s, 12s. So the 8.5 is showing a little bit of value. It looks like. Beyond that, once you start getting juiced or up into the 9s or 10s, there's really not as much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so maybe that's something to watch out for there. But what's the motto says? Do we know about the Jags backfield? Dearness Johnson? That's a name that I haven't talked about in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, Etienne looks like he's not going to play.
Yeah.
Bigsby and Johnson are going to split the work. I would imagine
Bigsby on my team, baby.
Oh, good for you. Yeah, I would imagine Bigsby's going to get the bulk of the work. I think Coach Speak Index said that there was a quote, I think, that they're comfortable giving him a big workload. I mean, we can look at, or I don't know if I've even seen Dearness Johnson props out yet. I don't see any. I like this. No Dearness Johnson props yet. So we'll have to see what the line is set at. That's always the thing that really matters more than anything else. I definitely expect him to get some work. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
And it does look like a pretty ugly weather game in London this week. So it could be a little more run heavy than usual for these teams.
Yeah. And I forget who it was in the chat. As I scroll down, I'll see it. I think it was Nodi. I'm saying, yep, right now, weather's looking pretty good in the US, pretty bad over there in London. Yeah. Let's see. Coming up here, Tyler Mendoza saying Kenneth Walker props are banned. Green Kid wants to know about Aaron Rodgers over 229.5. I've been betting the Aaron Rodgers unders. I got burned last week, but now that Devontae Adams is in the fold, who knows? Maybe something good can happen to the Jets. I don't see it, but you never know.
What was the question? Sorry, I was distracted.
Rodgers passing yards.
I am not on it. I actually am on some of the Rodgers unders. I like the attempts and then the completions a little bit more, but you definitely see some value here.
Yeah.
Part of this is I feel like we have so many of these offenses right now where we don't know what their identity is. They just changed coaching last week. Obviously, new head coach, new play caller on offense. They're blanking on his name. Downing.
Yeah, Todd Downing.
Was the OC in Tennessee, where they were one of the most run-heavy teams in football. And then the new head coach, Ulbrich, came out last week and said, hey, we want to be run-heavy now after the team had been super pass-heavy. So the Blitz is kind of, again, projecting somewhere in between, but more on the run-heavy side right now. So you're going to see Jets underpassing stuff popping. So, yeah. But again, it's a more fragile projection than a team that, they've just been doing the same thing every week where we know what they're going to do. So we really don't know. Are the Jets going to be really run heavy, or are they just going to keep passing with Aaron Rodgers? Like especially now that they got Devontae Adams, like we really don't know.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I'm staying out of it this week. I got burned in the Bills game. Rodgers sailed over his total, but Josh Allen was that close to hitting the under there. Graham O'Brien said, FYI, can get Johnny Smith over 2.5 receptions plus 139 on Pinnacle for the Canadians. Yeah, Marwell saying, Derek, on situations that you are more unsure of what's going to happen, do you edit your projections or artificially bring them more in line with the market?
So I never look at the market and be like, oh, the Blitz is so far off from the market, I just have to go in and manually tweak it. Like I never do that. Yeah. If it is really far off, I will look into it and be like, okay, is there something I'm missing here? A lot of the times I'm not. Sometimes it's just like an assumption, like the team's wide receiver 1 is questionable this week, and I'm assuming he's going to be out, but like the market maybe thinks he's going to be in, or like, and that's going to affect everyone else on the team or something like that. I will alter situations like the ones we've talked about here, like the Jets, Cleveland, the Titans, where we have coach speak, where we have, historical coaching data, where we have, real reason to believe that this team is going to be fundamentally different than what we've seen up to this point in the season. If a coach changes, you can't expect they're going to keep doing the exact same thing they did with the other coach. Like, it's just not a reasonable expectation. So yeah, I will always make adjustments for that type of thing. And then I will have the system look at the data in terms of like with the old coach and with the new coach. And it will, fold the new coach's data in over the original assumptions that I kind of changed for it. So yeah, there's a lot going on with it, but yeah, there's definitely changes for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Good news is some of the chat was a lot of talk about this Jets game here. Bogler saying, why would you not be careful with Chubb at this point? But then going into the Jets, Sparks video saying, what do you think about the offense with Adams moving forward, more pass heavy, more efficient? We already talked about this. Bogler saying, I think the addition of Adams and the fact that Rodgers is driving the bus for the organization means pass heavier lean. Also, Breece Hall, better receiver than runner from a betting perspective. Yeah, I mean, we mentioned all of this stuff so far. FanDuel dropped Tony Pollard to 16.5 minus 114. That might be us. That's something else to watch out for. Like, the lines on props are less efficient, which means that even something like this show is moving lines. And so you do want to watch out for, if you're watching this show and trying to read the market from that, like, sometimes we're going to move a number here. We've seen it happen plenty of times.
Oh yeah, we definitely are.
Yeah.
And I know people tend to look at FanDuel, sorry, my throat, as one of the sharper books, which they are, because they tend to take more action and limit people less than other books. But I wouldn't say they're I wouldn't say they're sharp. I'd say they're sharper than like Bet Rivers, but they're not sharp. So just because FanDuel's line is off with the rest of the market doesn't necessarily mean that FanDuel's line is right.
It's just like I like to say, I use them as a guidepost, especially when NBA rolls around. Like, if I see an edge on my screen and on say an under 34 points, and then I see FanDuel's got this same guy at 33 points, I like that. Makes me feel good about betting it. But if I also see an edge where FanDuel is the best line in the market and I'm betting into FanDuel, I'm not afraid to do that either.
No, I'm not either. And I've done that plenty of times. Sometimes, because FanDuel seems to kind of come up with their own numbers a lot of times where, other books maybe are using similar providers or sources or, moving based off each other. Or I don't know. FanDuel's not afraid to go out on a ledge and put out a different number. But especially if it's an opening number, that doesn't mean it's sharper. Like, the reason people say FanDuel's a sharper book is because they take more action, and then that action can shape the line a little bit better than it will at other books. But especially if it's an opening line, like I have no problem betting a FanDuel line that's off from the market.
Yeah, exactly. I'm absolutely in the same boat as you there. Lucky Jim saying Kirk Cousins under 36.5 pass attempts seems high. Should be a run heavy approach versus the Seahawks. How about we take a look at the Falcons in general here? Because let's knock out some questions from below too, because we've also got Drake London to look at.
All right. Well, let's take a look at
Kirk. Okay. We'll go London first. Let's do it.
So a little bit of value on the over here for London. I know the Blitz is just a huge fan of London in general. The game environment here is great. So probably not enough for me to bet, but if you wanted to, that's a pretty decent edge for an over on a star player. So, if you want to, you can.
As a Drake London dynasty owner, it feels so good to finally be able to say, oh my God, he's actually producing. I've been holding this candle for far too long. How about we peek into his receptions market, see if there's something better there, and then we'll head to Kirko.
Nope, not really.
No. Okay. What about Cousins? It is Kirktober. I can't keep track of all the memes that come up with Kirk Cousins. Like, it's the prime Kirk Cousins in prime time is terrible, but Kirk Cousins in October is tremendous now. Like, it's always changing.
Yeah. I might need to refresh again, but I imagine we're not going to see much value here. We're
Yeah.
projecting 10 yards over the market, which is going to be pretty much no value, I would think.
Yeah, and there we are. Yeah, no value there on Kirk Cousins, but a little bit of value on Drake London there. And I might be bouncing around a little bit, so sorry if I do, but I think we're good here. Samuel Smith and saying new sub here. Samuel, thank you so much. We love to have you. Jeff Byrne, Kyron and Barkley rushing yards look like value, but are these unders? Are these similar to your thoughts on Derrick Henry? Because I personally have avoided Saquon every single week, and I'll be damned if I'm playing him against the Giants. No thanks. That's a hard. I might win. You might win money doing it, but I am far more likely to feel so stupid for betting on Barkley to not go wild against his former team. Like I don't want that on my conscience.
I haven't been betting Barkley, but I almost want to this week because of that. Because like I want to see what the market's been doing. Like if the market's been pushing him up a lot because people are like, oh, revenge game against the Giants, he's going to smash. I mean, is that really actually a thing? Like we might get some value on the other side just because people artificially inflate it. But yeah. I mean, again, rushing yards isn't a market that I do a lot of. I usually want to see a pretty sizable. I mean, that is a pretty sizable edge, but rushing yards is one of those things that's so tough because, especially on big numbers for star players, you're going to see unders because to get a big number, the guy he has to play the whole game and he has to play well. Like that is his path to get there, where there's so many other paths to not get there. Does he get hurt? Does he get unlucky with his efficiency? Does he get game scripted out? Like so that's why you're going to see this a lot of times. Like projecting a guy for 82 yards is a lot because you have to account for the chance that he just gets hurt and he doesn't get there. And especially for running backs get hurt a lot.
Yeah. And not to mention the fact that you've got A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith back. The passing game is back for the Eagles here. Like they have more options and the Giants have been a functional offense. Malik Neighbors is back this week. I'm not calling this game a shootout, but it's not a blowout.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. Like I wouldn't hate playing a Giants spread depending on what it is, but that is by no means something I'm suggesting you go out and do. That's top of my head, and I have no idea what that number is off the top of my head here. So don't do that. Let's see. Let's try and get a couple more in here. We're coming up right on 1 o'clock, so I think we can get one or two more in here, and then we will head out. We got most of them here. Let's get to let's do Andrew Rivers. What do you guys think about Jalen Polk receiving yards? It's tough, but I mean, I'm liking some overs with Drake May.
Oh, I'm liking the unders.
No, we're
not. I'm totally on the unders for Polk. I don't often do double dipping on guys, but I bet his receiving yards under earlier in the week, and then his receptions popped up, and I'm like, all right, I got to bet his receptions too. It's moved a little bit since where it opened, but Polk is a guy who they seem to be kind of souring on, at least in the short term. You know, a lot of the Coach Speak Index quotes this week were kind of about how the receivers they trust are Douglas, Bourne, and Booty, and how Polk, needs to get his mental game in order, and how, they might be starting to take some looks away from him. Plus it's a bad offense, a run heavy offense in London in bad weather. So I like the Polk unders quite a bit this week, or at least I did at the opening numbers. It's, we're not seeing a ton of value here anymore, I guess, but I still like them. Yeah.
I might be taking some of that on Jalen Polk at least. And hey, shout out to Kayshon Boutte, who is an all-team fantasy receiver. He's the fantasy equivalent of a locker room guy, because he opens up the door to so many tremendous fantasy team names for you if you have him. That's something you got to watch out for. I mean, one of my teams is the Big Booty Mix. Like, come on. All right. I believe that is going to do it for us here on the show today. I know that we missed some of you. Okay, we'll do one more, because Sports Videos is a champ, and he has been in every single show. So Dallas Goedert is ruled out. Are we getting the Calcaterra legacy game here? This is the final question. We'll recap the plays, and then we got to head out of here, because we are going past the hour mark here. But guys, that is because you have been so phenomenal with everything in the chat here this week. We love having you all here. We really appreciate it. And seriously, thank you so much for tuning in each and every week. You guys are all champs.
Looks like we don't have markets for Calcaterra yet.
Yeah.
We'll see
He's
when
not
we
in the
do.
system yet.
But yeah, I
All
mean,
right.
the Blitz is expecting him to have a real role here with Goddard out. So we'll have to see what the lines come out as.
Yeah, and Milo saying screw the Calcaterra number, just go with the alts. I mean, yeah, maybe we're laddering those too, like we're laddering Tyler Huntley here. But let's real quick before we head out, we're gonna recap. Derek, the core four we are looking at here: Jonnu Smith over 2.5 receptions, plus 155 at Bet365. Kareem Hunt under 2.5 receptions, minus 115 at Bet365, and Tony Pollard under 3.5 receptions, minus 103 in Bet Rivers, and of course Tyler Huntley over 17.5 pass completions, minus 110 here at ESPN. No, I'm saying the books are a skirt. Yeah, they are a skirt of us here. That's going to do it for the show today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in as always. Derek, thank you so much for being here. Let's go out. Let's have another great week here. Rebound from last week as far as the overall numbers, but hey, continuing the hot streak that we are on the show here. Derek, as always, been an absolute pleasure. Don't forget, we'll be right back here next week, noon Pacific time, 3 p.m. Eastern. And of course, come hang on Sunday at noon, Sunday at 11:30 Pacific time, usually right around half times of the weeks of the early slate. I'm going live right here on the channel. We're looking at some in-game numbers going on as the games go through their second halves. And most of us, honestly, I know that it's a couple of the mainstays in here that are always with me sweating out the props that we bet using the Blitz during the week. So feel free to come sweat, hang out. It's much more of a chill show, just talking about what we're sweating and enjoying the Sunday football together. But for now, we'll see you guys next time. Thank you again so much. Let's take care. Let's have a great weekend, and let's cash some tickets. See you next week, everybody.